Welcome to the Little Wins podcast, where school leaders share their little wins that build strong culture, with your host, Karen Borchert. Hello, and welcome to the Little Wins podcast, where we celebrate the small, powerful things school leaders do to build strong, joyful cultures for their teams. I'm your host, Karen Borchert. Today, we're joined by someone whose story and style of leadership really struck with me. Dr. Lee Byrom is a superintendent of Poth Independent School District in rural Texas, just south of San Antonio. He's been in the role in this district for a year, just starting his second year. And in that short time, he's shown what it looks like to lead with visibility, servant leadership, and a deep belief in community. Dr. Byrom's journey to district leadership is anything but traditional, and I'll let him tell you all about it. But his commitment to being visible, present, and responsive is worth learning from. He walks the halls, he sells concessions, talks with every student, and truly knows his teams. I can't wait for you to hear his perspective today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Byrom.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity any chance I get to speak about our children, as well as the educational system in itself.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you. Well, first of all, for those of us who've never been to Poth Independent School District, take us through your district a little bit. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we're a small school district and kind of a suburb of San Antonio, like you mentioned, about 30 miles up there. A very Polish community, but we do have a diverse population of students that range from, Polish, Hispanic, we have our everything in between, but we range about 966 students to the 990 range. We are a very rural community. It's a ranching based type community with not a lot of industry involved. Grassroots people, blue collar people, very, very good community, very strong community, very involved community. And I'm just very ecstatic to be a part of it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about your first year as superintendent. What's that been like, and what are you gearing up for the second year?
Well, in any leadership role, it's imperative that you have an observation period to see kind of how things go and how they are running. Do you need to be involved in any kind of change? Does it warrant any change? Is there any hot spots, or what are the celebrations and what are the things that we probably need to work on it? So it was a very good year for me last year to be able to be a part of that evaluatory stage, and I do that by being very, very, like you said, visible. I every day, multiple times throughout the day out in the halls, I greet students, teachers, I greet parents in the morning in the pickup lines, anywhere I can be seen so that I'm not seen as an evaluatory person. I want to be a constant, so then I can get a kind of a unadulterated view of how things run from a perspective of an observer and not an evaluator. And I think that that's imperative to seeing the things that present themselves that you might need to make some changes. I'm very fortunate here. It's a very high functioning district, and it was when I got here. I've been in education for over 20 years, and I've been in districts that range from Title One, where 85 to 90% of their students are on free and reduced lunch, impoverished, to here to where we're about 30% of that. So, I've seen the kind of the scale from struggling to high functioning, and right now we're functioning at a pretty high level here.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, speaking of, those 20 plus years in education, one of my favorite things about this podcast is getting to hear how people arrive at leadership. It seems like it's never a straight line, but your path is especially memorable to me, just showing kind of how much purpose and calling there can be in this work. So, will you tell us a little bit about your story and your path to education?
Yes, ma'am. So, back when I first started college, the San Antonio Police Department was recruiting very heavily at the junior college, which is called Palo Alto. I'm very proud to have gone there. And so I chose the money route over education right off the bat because they pay extremely well. It's the sixth largest police department, or it was at the time, in the United States. And so I joined the police department at 20 years old. I graduated the academy at 21. and immediately got shipped out to a side of town where I was working that was impoverished and very it was a very difficult area to reach people because they weren't willing to talk to us a lot as policemen. And so what I did is so I could reach the children, which I wanted to talk to. I wanted to be a constant in their life. I wanted to be that focal point that they could rely on. I started coaching at their local, I guess you'd say YMCA community center. So I volunteered to be one of the football coaches in one of their junior leagues over there. And so the very same students that I that ran for me at night now, they got to run for me during the day. So running from and running for are two very, very different things, and so,
Yeah.
uh, seeing how they responded to the different level of, communication and the different trust levels that they had for me, I immediately started, going down a path of trying to catch them before I had to catch them. I didn't want things to be strictly, punitive and negative in my life all the time, so I went down the path of education. I felt a calling. I felt at that point, which I had never felt before, that I wanted to be a part of students' lives, and I started doing the math on how many kids I could reach over for a career, and the numbers for coaches especially it's astronomical. It's thousands you get to deal with, on a personal level and develop relationships with, and sometimes be the only parent they have in their life. So, I started that path and started teaching history, 20 something years ago, and I've never looked back, and, along those lines, I could see things happening in the school system that I thought were, state mandates, people that dictate what happens in education and have no educational background. And so you start wanting to, you start getting called. I felt the calling to have a more impactful, um, role in the education system.
Mhm.
And I'm never the guy that likes to complain behind closed doors and with groups of teachers to say, this is not working. I don't like to do this. And so I felt the only voice and the only way to have a real voice was to really work on myself. Because if you really want to affect change or impact like the overall process, your experiences, your education, your expertise needs to be what you focus on so that you do have that voice. And it's a positive voice rather than a negative voice, because sometimes it can come off negative when you sit in groups and you want change, but you're not really, even though you're qualified, because teachers are very qualified to suggest change.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes off as a little negative. So I decided to work on myself and then decided to go back and get my master's and then eventually my doctorate. And so I went from teacher to an administrative role in the district because of my police background.
Yeah.
Started immediately working on safety, security because of the climate of our nation and the violence that had been experienced in schools. And so that's a good role for me. And I think I mentioned to you before, I was in Disney World with my family when I got the call from that current superintendent at the time, and he was asking me about the things at the high school that were going on because they were losing 20 plus teachers a year. Ability rate was insane, and so I shared with him what I thought needed to change, and mainly visibility and approachability and open door and just being one of the a coworker rather than a supervisor all the time. And so he said, very well, back from Florida, your new office is at the high school. You're the new high school principal. And I was like, oh my gosh. Eh, Yeah, I had never even been an assistant principal. So the shock and awe of that, while I was flattered and deeply moved by the opportunity, it was that's when my work began,
Yeah.
identify, first of all, what's my leadership style, right? What kind of what's the process that you put in place so that people trust you and want to rely on you? And how do you change something that is so going the wrong direction, and
Yeah.
uh, we immediately got to work on just being approachable and like we talked about, visibility, empowerment, of teachers and I'll explain some of that in a little while when we get to some of your questions.
Yeah.
But we went from, losing 20 teachers a year to losing less than 5, for 3 consecutive years. And at that point, I believed that it was time that I started seeking a way to impact an entire district rather than a campus. And so, that's when I began my superintendent journey with a school down south of here, in the Valley of Texas, and that's where I began that journey.
Yeah. Well, it's such there's so much to that story overall. I mean, not the least is the, being called in Disney World and saying, "When you get back, you're the new principal." That must have been a shock to the system for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
I didn't enjoy the trip very mumuch after that. It was a lot of nerves and a lot of, research, and, you just jump into work mode, and
yeah,
because you wanna be impactful. I mean, you don't if you're doing this and without the intention of being, intentional and impactful, then you're not in this for the right reasons anyway, right? So
right, right. Well, I know that you, as part of that, that journey into education, you did, your doctorate work, specifically on the topic of teacher retention in rural schools and districts. Is that right?
yes, I did,
Okay.
having experienced that firsthand and, I seeing the things that I had to do the changes we had to make to impact that type of change. I wanted to know the whys. Why are people moving? Why is the mobility rate so high? Um, and the first thing that we really have to address all over the nation is we talk about recruiting and retention on campus level and district level, but it's the profession itself that is struggling to keep people. When I did my study, I started off by researching how many teachers we put out in the state of Texas every year versus how many we lose. You know? And it's a skewed stat because it doesn't include all of them that you lose kind of midterm or retired spring break. Well, we were at that point, the state of Texas was turning out less than 1% more teachers than we were losing.
Oh, wow.
And that's a staggering rate. You can't keep up with that. And so,
No.
uh, that when you combine that with the fact that, many states have the same system as we do, we're all in the same retirement system in every school district in Texas, aside from charters and private. Uh, and so you can go to any district you want seeking any kind of capital gains that you're looking for and have the same retirement and actually increase your retirement. So, those factors in itself, create a very, very big challenge for all the school districts in the state of Texas.
Yeah, that 1% is huge. I mean, not huge. It's a major factor in,
It is.
being able to kind of keep up with the pace of those retirements and that loss. What did you learn as far, in that research or in your work, what do you learn are the biggest drivers for, teacher retention? What makes teachers stay?
Well, teacher retention and recruitment both has the same, um, I guess, primary driver. The biggest thing that people look for is compensation. They wanna be paid for their time. They wanna feel like they're contributing to their household and their families, and a job's a job. That's why people work. And
Yep.
so, pay is number 1, and it was overwhelmingly number 1. It was unanimous and everybody that I interviewed in the research. And so compensation was the number 1,
Yep.
factor. Mhm.
Yeah. Excellent. In places where the compensation is sort of set, or or at least takes time to change at the state level or even,
Mm.
the local level, what are the things that are actionable, for school and district leadership, that you found in your research around retention?
You know, it's really difficult to answer that question, with a simple response because everything we do is tax driven and state funding, and so we set our budgets based on how much income we have. Our revenue allows us to set the budget for the year, and you have to account for not only, the pay scale for teachers and bus drivers and custodians and, cafeteria, every maintenance, everybody that's involved in that, paraprofessionals, but you also have to account for all the events and all the things we have to provide for our students, all the facilities that we have to manage. And, in the summer, you get a, $14,000 $15,000 electric bill every month and school's not even going on. So,
Yeah.
things like that, uh, have a big, they're big to determine, they determine where you can go with your salary. And so when you're looking at schools that are within 30 miles of us that are not rural, that, don't have that kind of, tax exemption for agriculture and things like that. There's industry in their areas. They can set a higher salary for their teachers based on their revenues. And so a big hurdle for us to overcome in smaller districts across the state and probably across the United States. I don't think that would be different anywhere.
Right. Right. Well, so when that's the case, in a rural district like yours, so what do you do in order to be able, if you don't, if the dollars don't work, to be able to attract teachers at the rates they might get in a different place? What are you able to do to attract teachers into your district?
Okay. So my findings actually identified six different factors, for the recruitment and retention of teachers. And so the number two, which was very, very close to pay, the number two factor was the campus culture or your district
Okay.
culture, right? I should say.
Mm,
And so to me, in essence, that is how you feel when you work somewhere. What is the sense of, is this a culture I want to be involved with? Do I want my children there to be a part of it? Is it something where I'm going to work every day and feeling like I'm not at work? I mean, if you enjoy your job, you never have to work a
yeah,
day in your life, right?
that's right.
That's forever. It's what we know. It's what's ingrained in our minds, right? And so the campus culture came in number two, and along with that, number three was also real close, but finishing in third was administrative support. People wanted to feel, and to me, it kind of goes into culture, but it was very specifically identified differently in the study. Now, because I think that you can have a good culture with your peers, but you also want to go to work and feel like you have that, like your backbone, your administrators are an extension of your spine, and I think that that's very important. Uh, I would say also that your branding, number 4 in the study was the way people put it out there, what they were looking for, what they offered. Advertisement, and branding was really big. People wanted to be proud of where they work, and they wanted the district to do a good job of getting it out there like, "Hey, we're Poth. This is what we do. Here's our scores. This is where we celebrate those little victories." And so the branding part of it was really important.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, number 5 was it just was one word. They said flexibility. And
Mm,
so what that means is in the process of recruiting and retaining teachers, it's imperative that you find those that fit into the culture of your district in terms of being flexible, right? So
yep.
in a small district where you might have one sponsor for student council for the entire district, that person needs to wear that hat and be the English teacher and maybe the theater arts teacher. So the flexibility, you have to look for that in the people that you hire. So it's what makes people want to come here and what works for the district, right? So those are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then the last thing that I found was that people that come to a district and stay in a district like for the district leadership to make highly impactful decisions in
Mm,
terms of admin. And that encompasses how many hours we spend in meetings after work, what type of curriculum we seek. Is there buy-in from the staff, or we just pick something out of a hat and say we're trying this for a year, and then all of a sudden it didn't work, and we're trying another one? Because if you've been in education, that's kind of how it works. Best practices is it's a really overused couple of words that really describes, hey, we're going to buy whatever's new on the market and we're going to sell it to you because that's what our thing works right now, right? And when you do that and you change it over with teachers all the time, and you have that kind of, hey, we're doing this year, we're doing this, and we never follow up on what we're truly trying to do,
yeah.
or see the results of what we've implemented. It makes them feel like you're wishy-washy, and
Yeah.
that's the best way I can describe that, right? So highly impactful decision makings were really important, but those were the factors that I came up in the study. Those were the glaring factors, and so that's what I chose to include on that. So if anybody ever wants to see that, you can go to my LinkedIn. I have a copy of the dissertation as well as an article that kind of summarizes my findings on that.
That is great. Okay, I'm just gonna roll through them really fast so I make sure I got it all, because this is a great education for all of us. So, as far as the things that help teachers come to a district and stay in a district, pay, and then culture, administrative support, brand, flexibility, and then impactful, district level decisions. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so thrilled to have gotten this education today. Thank you for this. One of the things that really stands out to me in that is brand. And you said something in passing of people want to be proud of where they work. What does that look like in at Post? How do you guys bring that about and kind of bring that kind of pride of place and pride of district and brand forward in your district?
Well, we're working hard at even increasing that branding, and so what we do is, I mean, I'm not a real big social media guy, but in today's day and age, you need to be with your district.
Yeah.
So Facebook is a big thing for us. Our district website is huge. We just added an app that has all our calendar events, our communication pieces for our parents, highlights from sports events and things like that. Uh, those are how we get things out. Now, how you keep it out and you keep the conversation going is by community involvement. You gotta have parents in and involved in everything constantly because their Facebook pages are what gets your branding out. Hey,
Mm.
today a teacher called me to volunteer to whatever, hand out candies in a classroom or whatever it might be. Well, that teacher puts out there, man, our kids are respectful. The teachers are great. Our hallways are clear. It's very safe environment. Well, that's branding. Who better to brand to get your brand out there than the people who send their children to you every day? And so we work very hard on that, and we have a lot of booster groups, we have a lot of support groups. We allow volunteers, we solicit volunteers. We have a lot of district level meetings where we have involvement from any type of industry work or employment opportunities in the area, and we do involve local churches, anything we can to get the word out there that we're supportive of every type of initiative that the community wants to have. And we're both. I mean, we're just like, oh, that's it.
That is great. I love, that idea that parents saying, like, "I was just in the school today, and, the teachers are so friendly, and everything is" that creates so much more impact than if the district was saying, "Our teachers are great, and our hallways are clean," right? Like, it means a lot more when it comes from fellow parents, and, I would imagine that's true. Do your teachers also kind of play into that brand equation for you as far as kind of what they're posting or talking about their jobs or about school?
Yes, Chick-fil-A runs a wonderful, wonderful community or customer service model, and I haven't purchased that or anything, but I will mention it because every time you go to one, you just feel like, man, whether you like chicken or not, I really like being there. And
Yeah.
so we really work hard on making sure that message gets out. That communication piece is always there. I don't we don't wanna call parents just when little Johnny does something bad. We wanna call parents when little Johnny does something spectacular. And so
Yeah.
we really focus on, that communication piece and making sure that we have call logs and that we're calling randomly and "Hey, we have a test coming up in a couple weeks. You might wanna study." Man, it goes a long way. It really does go a long way for people. And, right now, people that will listen to this will say, "Well, you're fortunate because you work in a district with only, less, 900 and something students, right?" But every district has support fields in place and administrative staff that's comparable to their population of students. And so it's just how you roll it out and what your intention is. And I think you could do this at any level, but because your team buys into what your philosophy is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Well, continuing on that path and kind of how you lead in Poth. I know, we've talked a little bit about visibility and about situational leadership. Can you just talk a little bit about kind of what does your leadership style look like on campus each day, and how do you think about that?
Okay, well, I am philosophically, I do believe in situational leadership. You know,
Can you kind of define that for us all?
yes, of course. In the definition of it, if you say it out loud, sometimes people think, well, okay, well, you're going to act different in every situation, right? But that's not my definition of it. And to me, it's imperative that I know every employee in this district. I don't believe education starts in a classroom. I think it starts when they get on a bus in the morning. I think it starts when they grab their breakfast at the cafeteria. Every experience, every positive experience we can share with a person in the district is memorable to a student. If you go back and I ask you right now, hey, can you remember an equation in ninth grade? You're not going to remember that equation, but you might remember that teacher, say, hey, you can do it. You got this. You have the capacity
Mhm.
to learn. Or the lady in the cafeteria saying, here, here's an extra tater tot for today because man, I love your smile or whatever it is. It's a good feeling, that you should experience from the moment you interact with any of our staff until the end of the day. And for me, I wanna be a part of seeing those interactions. So I'm out there and I'm greeting people and I'm asking them how they are. Uh, you know, Being a teacher is a very, very tough job. You have to be on your A game every day, and you have to have this perfect attitude every time you walk in there because you have little eyes on you all day long, 8 hours a day. It's not like any other profession. And so you need to realize when somebody's not having that perfect,
Yeah.
and you need to be the one that says, "Hey, are you okay?" I care about you. Do you need a minute? And I what if you need me to watch your class, I'll volunteer. I'll go watch your class. I'll talk to your kids.
Yeah.
It's that approachability that makes people feel like they can listen to me and hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
So, situational leadership, by truly knowing my staff, if I need to roll out information or offer a critique, I should be able to know how they want to hear it. Doesn't mean I'm gonna change what I have to say, but it might be that I need to change the way I say it. And I think that gives people the idea that, "Hey, man, you could tell that guy anything. He's gonna listen to you. He comes over here and he'll tell me, 'Hey, you might wanna work on this because this is what I've seen.' He doesn't do it in a derogatory manner. He's not out to get you. He's here to help us." It's a support measure, right? And so that's what my situational leadership.
That is so great. I wanna say that again, I love what you said there about it doesn't knowing your team well enough to know that when you're making a decision or rolling something out, you know how to say it to them, that it doesn't change what you're going to say, but you may change how you say it. Do do you have any do you I know this I'm putting you on the spot, but do you have any examples of anything you've done like that? I think that's such a cool, honestly, little tactic that any of us could take forward. Any examples where you've done that?
Well, okay. Teaching in itself, as a teacher, it's a very and I don't wanna say this in a bad way, but it's a very egotistical profession, right? Just like law enforcement, because you're taught from day one in college. That's your classroom. These are your lesson plans. This is your responsibility. Classroom management is all on you. Your classroom rules are all on you. And so having been taught that and having ingrained in your mind and going through the profession for 5, 6, 10 years, and then having somebody walk in there and saying, "Hey, I don't think this is working." There is not gonna be what you want it to be. It's gonna be immediately defensive because that's their realm, that's their domain, that's what they've been ingrained in their minds, and so I say ego, not in a negative way. It's what's built into their
Just kind of it's sort of seeing like kind of isolated or like you have that responsibility for that whole for your classroom. That's interesting that you say it's like law enforcement.
the same
That's
thing.
true?
Because when you go through the academy, they say when you get to a scene, it's your scene, you're in charge, what you say dictates how that pans out, it's your decision, and so they're very, very similar professions. You deal with people all day long. Sometimes you have to say things you don't wanna say, but you gotta say it, and there has to be a disposition to what you're offering, right? What you're suggesting, and so they're very similar professions, and so handling that there are teachers that'll say, "Don't sugarcoat. I don't wanna hear fluff. I wanna know it. Just tell me exactly like it is." Well, those are the ones you tell them exactly like it is. "Hey, this ain't working. You need to change it up. This is what I saw." Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for not saying, "Hey," because there are those that like to be told in a different manner, like, the old positive, negative, positive treatment. "You're doing a great job. But everything's perfect, man. I have so much joy when I come in here, but I still feel like you have all this potential. So there are some that like that too, and so those are examples of when and where you have to bring that out. There are some people you cannot, if you shoot straight with them and the way you normally talk, it'll have a negative impact on them. Being a male uh, uh, superintendent, and especially in elementary where it's predominantly, female teachers, uh, you don't want to go in and sound like that mad husband. You don't want to go in there and sound like you're being misogynistic. So you go in with hey, you're highly impactful. These are things I see. If you can use it, if you can't, then we'll get your principal can come talk to you about it or whatever. And so I just think you need to approach every situation and handle them the way you feel, the way you get a feel for how people want to be handled. And I think they deserve that. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I'm learning so much today. You have so much wisdom in this. How do you translate that to coaching your principals at the building level? Or what are some things that you do to kind of help your principals lead in that sort of situational leadership way, or in a way where with that visibility? How do you kind of translate that down so that it's happening district wide?
Well, we like to team up on a lot of stuff, and so if there is information that we need to get out that's either sensitive or could have, some type of, negative impact on people, we do like to discuss and say, "Hey, this is how we think we should handle this situation." So, there's a lot of peer mentorship, a lot of peer collaboration. We meet weekly, and discuss, like, "These are our initiatives. This is where we're at. We feel like apathy might be affecting this right here because of this." And so apathy is a killer, and it can really, be contagious, and so we try to get ahead of that, but we do that with multiple discussions and a lot of leaning on each other. I tell everybody all the time, I realize the role I'm in, but we work together. This is something where we're all trying to make this the best place it can be. So it's not a supervisory subordinate type role all the time. It's a collaborative role. And I think that they understand me. And so if people, the biggest part of being in a leadership role is making sure that your philosophy is echoed down through. It has to start with everybody in your immediate staff and your administrative staff. And once they buy into that, it's pretty
Yeah.
self-monitoring.
Yeah. That's great. Apathy is a killer and it can be contagious is that's true of every working team on the planet, but I think that's a truth that I think owning that and knowing that and saying that's not, we don't have a place for apathy here is so key. Well, as you know, this podcast is called Little Wins, and it's called it for a reason because so often it's the consistent, intentional little things that we do that make a difference in how people feel at your school or in your district. So, are there any small kind of routines or traditions or things that you do in your district on a regular basis that you think make an impact on the culture of the buildings of the campuses?
Well, since we can't compete, salary-wise with some of the bigger districts around us,
Right.
we really, really focus on empowering teachers, and I know that you're gonna hear that a lot throughout, a lot of leadership. We empower teachers, but it's cliche to us. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is to make sure our class sizes are manageable. We wanna have a good ratio of students to teachers, and we try to get around the 18, 15 range, if we can, to keep them in there. Sometimes we get up around the 20-ish range, uh, but, it's never something that they can't handle, and they have a voice in that. And so, if we go down and say we have, only 3 teachers at a grade level, say 3rd grade, and we try that out for a year. If it didn't work and we feel like we need more, well, we invite their input to say, "Hey, this is what didn't work. This is what worked. We can do it, but it's a stress,
Mm.
a stressor that we weren't really, accounting for." And, the involvement in them, for them having a say in everything that we do is really important. And it doesn't seem like that all the time. Sometimes you make decisions and it seems like, "Oh, man, they didn't include us," but we try.
Yeah.
Um, and so by doing that, the empowerment piece of it, the biggest thing that any teacher that in my experience, has ever wanted is autonomy, in their classroom, right? We talked about that, the ego, of it's mine, I'm gonna do it my way. Well, that's fine. And so we allow that. We give them autonomy, we provide curriculum, we provide resources, but we let them put it across the way they wanna get it across. That's their lesson, uh, and they know their students. The only thing that we've added and really asked is that we start using, data-driven, you know, instruction. so that we're not just gauging it based on a feeling, it's based on data. That's a hard sell, to some people because it's extra work, but you get it flowing and you start inputting the things that are crucial for data disaggregation, unit tests, things like that. Maybe even a quiz here and there, just so we know, how did it go? Where are we at?
Yeah.
But the data portion of it, and empowering teachers is letting them work together to say, okay, we had a unit test. We're pulling data off that unit test. What questions in here did everybody get 100% on? Or were they too easy? Were those questions too easy? What did everybody miss? Was it the question, the way it was worded, or did we not cover that good enough? So we don't just ask them to drive instruction through data. We tell them how to use data, and I think that that's empowerment because it's real easy to say, "Hey, I want data on this," and then just walk away and expect something. But know how to use it and where to get it and how to input and pull out. I think those are really, really important. Also through that empowerment piece, I strictly do my very best to promote from within.
Mm.
And so in my conversations with teachers, identifying those that have leadership skills beyond the classroom, it's important that they know that. I tell them, gosh, man, you need to start working on your masters. You are really, really good at this. Your ideas are so insightful. You're just such a key piece, key cog in this machine, right? And I do that all the time. And so
Wow.
do that in hopes to say, okay, like this year, I promoted an assistant principal to principal. I've promoted a principal to a curriculum director, all from within. Well, now when you come to work here, you think, hey, I could spend 5 years here, and if there's movement, I'll be considered. It's not if we want new ideas, we formulate our own ideas and we work on them together. We don't need outside help all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big piece in us. Uh, and we again, just boosting confidence, through praise, through letting them know there's growth. A sticky pad with a note on there saying, "Man, you rocked that today." Long way, right? And so,
It did.
uh,
It did.
those are the cultural things that I feel are superior to anything else you can offer, and that's just being a human.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think there's so much, again, once again, so much wisdom in this, in these words. I think as you talk about autonomy in the classroom, how you explained, how you're, taught like this is your classroom when you are in school and when you're learning to be an educator, that, if there's a lot of, if you then get into the workplace and you don't feel that autonomy in your classroom, you're like, "Wait a minute, they said this was gonna be my classroom."
What am I doing? What am I doing here? My creativity is being stifled, and that's a big deal for teachers because nobody joins this profession to get rich, and so you have to know that there's passion involved in it from the onset,
Yeah,
and so if you take that passion and say, okay, well, we're not going to take that passion away from you. I want you to have that, but how do we do it? And so you give that autonomy and you say, look, it's up to you now. If we identified through data or through our standardized tests that it just didn't work out, so then we're going to intervene and we're going to help a little bit, but you're still going to have autonomy to roll out what we're asking you to help out with, right? So
yeah,
that's
yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, we have so many good things that we have learned already today, but we always wrap up with the three sim questions. So, are you ready for those three?
yes, I hope so.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, you're like, I don't know yet. The first one is, what are three words you want to define your school's culture or your district culture?
3 words. I would say citizenship.
Mm,
I think it's huge that we work on the citizenship of all of our students because to be managed in the school and to be managed outside of here are two different things. And so we want people to know what real world situations are and where they fit into that. I think that another word is just pride. I think that you need to come to school and be very happy that you're there. That's why my teachers can wear jeans every day if they want to, as long as they wear something that has our branding on it. So Poth ISD, Poth Pride, football pride, basketball band, whatever it might be. So pride is another huge word. And another thing is just humanity.
mm,
That we're all in this together. We all go to work so we can provide sustenance to our families, but we also want to feel like that we're human enough to where we're a work family, not just work. I like those 3 words. I think that it encompasses everything we do here. Uh,
Yeah, I love it. Citizenship, pride, and humanity. I think that is a unique combination to the podcast so far for sure. I do want to just pull out that little win I just heard, which is so your rule about jeans, because I know this is a big topic, is teachers can wear jeans every day as long as they are wearing something that's branded for the district.
yes, except on Fridays, I let them wear whatever if they wanna wear a nice, shirt with their jeans that they worked all summer and bought, that's fine, so Friday's their day, but, Friday's a big spirit day, so it usually works out that they wear something, spirit.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool kind of trade-off. That's great.
Yep.
Okay, second question is, what is one little win you've had at work lately that we can celebrate for you?
You know, one of the small wins that I would say that I've accomplished here was getting support, administratively. We've added a curriculum and instruction, assistant superintendent here who is a fabulous, in-house hire for us, and, I believe that her new role is going to do so much for the culture of this place that, I'm very excited about that, and to have, the board have the confidence in me to make that kind of recommendation, the increase in salary and things like that. Uh, that's a big win, it's a big confidence. That and they extended me, 2 years on my contract instead of 1, which we normally get, so that gives me, 4 years total on my contract, so those little things make you it kind of, um, reinforces that you're doing some good things.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Uh, and then the last question, around here we like to say that culture is everyone's job. It's not just the job of one leader, but it really comes from everybody collectively making decisions and taking action together. So, what would be your advice? What do you believe any educator could do to improve their school or district culture right now?
Smile,
Love it.
smile, you know? Even if I'm having the worst day of my life, it's nobody else's fault. Smile, get through it, be a trooper. There's a lot of eyes on you. There should always be a perception that you're in the best place that you've ever been, and smiling goes a long way with that. You can walk around like you're chewing on a lemon all day, or you can walk around showing your teeth, and smiling away, and, yeah, the lemon part's not very good, and like I tell them all the time, there's always those people that, you can hand them a $20 bill and they're upset because you didn't give them 2 tens, right? Uh,
Yeah.
for people in the world, but just smile through it. Parents aren't complaining, they're advocating. Parents, would never complain to you if they didn't trust you, so smile about that and get after it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's simple advice. But it's really, really good. Well, Dr. Byron, it's so much fun to learn from you and from your research and from your work today. I loved the discussion of creating, a place where people are proud of where they work, and of asking your parents to tell the story on Facebook and on social media. I love the sort of comparison and understanding of the role of educators and the importance of autonomy in the classroom. I love the discussion around apathy and not giving it any place in your space, and just overall the work around kind of in bringing teacher voice about by building those real relationships. So lots and lots of little wins here that we can learn from and take away from. I thank you so much for being a part of the Little Wins podcast and wish you a wonderful school year ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a little win? We'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help schools build strong culture at getalpaca.com.